Welcome to BQ Prime. I'm Hiral Dadia. Overall, if you see in terms of markets, clearly there is an advance that we are seeing in terms of Friday's session today. We opened up gap up, but we've given up almost 100 point of gains in terms of where Nifty goes. But in spite of this up move, we are still headed for a weekly decline amid the worries over global growth as well as the future course of rate hikes by central banks as well. A lot of movers and shakers in trade today. To discuss a couple of them, joining us on the show today is Shahina Mukadam, independent market expert. Shahina, good morning and welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning.
Shaina, let's pick up TCS. That's one of the favorites that's been spoken about in today's session. Clearly, on the back of the change of guard that we are seeing at the company. Overall, what do you make of this, and how do you see, in terms of the company perspective? Because overall, clearly, this has come in as a surprise for the street. Rajesh had a stellar 6 years as TCS CEO, but there was a significant increase in terms of revenues, profits, as well as the market cap. Now, the appointment of Krithivasan will, actually have more continuity, changes to strategy, etc., and that's something we need to wait and watch as well. How are you? How would you advise an investor to play a TCS?
Well, I have been positive on TCS through ups and downs. It has been, despite a bit of underperformance for short periods of time. If you look at a longer time frame, it has been, a very good performer in terms of stock returns. Also, in terms of its own financial parameters, it continues to do very well despite the slowdowns that we have seen in terms of, demand, order book globally, as we're seeing some bit of slowdown coming. I think TCS has very well, moved ahead, factoring it in. Now, with the change in the top management, I believe this will give some new, I would say, direction, a new enthusiasm to the overall business to take it forward. So I see this move as a positive. I don't think that there will be any significant change in terms of the company direction because of change in the top management. And I believe I would see this as a positive, especially since he was already the new guy has already been heading a large vertical in TCS. So I think this will be business continuity.
Right. So moving on from a TCS, you have a HDFC Life. Now, a positive move coming in on that counter. However, you had life insurance shares as well, where there was some bit of pressure over the last couple of trading sessions. In fact, good moves now coming in with regards to HDFC Life. What do you make of the counter?
Well, I think after the stock has been giving up quite a bit. If you see from its highs, it's considerably lower in the last couple of quarters, and I think this has some bit to do one with the expensive valuation it was vis-a-vis the other competitors peer group. Also, secondly, I think the government has made a lot of changes, especially in the last budget, in terms of the tax implications for insurance products, where I think HDFC Life will be the biggest hit compared to the others, like compared to SBI Life and ICICI. So to that extent, I think the stock is corrected more than the rest. Now, let us look at it from current perspective. I think from the current levels, the downside is limited. I still think that there could be a bit of downside from here also because the stock is looking a bit weak for the shorter term. But now with the valuation of about 3.5 times enterprise value, I don't think it is expensive to that extent. So I would be cautious while buying it. I would still wait for dips, but I think most of the decline is now factored into the stock.
Right. Moving on, two other names that are on focus today is LNT as well as Hindustan Aeronautics. Again, Hindustan Aeronautics is for on the back of the order wins being considered L1. If you see in terms of LNT as well, in fact, in the first week of March, clearly the Ministry of Defense also inked agreements with both these companies for the purchase of trainer aircrafts as well as cadet training ships. I think the order cost was more than 6,800 crores as well. What do you make of these counters? Because it seems to be that defense and railways have been in focus as well.
Absolutely. And I think being, we are very close to elections. I think the not only will the government spending uh, accelerate, but even the sector is now both in terms of sentiment value, it's doing well. Fundamentally, I think the numbers are there. As you mentioned, order book is there. So I think these two stocks, L&T as well as Hindustan Aeronautics, are spaces which most of the investors are looking to hide in, given the volatility that is there in the overall market. And I think this sector will provide some bit of stability. The capital, the order book and the investments that are likely to be there in infrastructure are quite steady and looking up. So I would think that investments in these two stocks, even today, would make decent sense for the next 1 year, 1 to 2 years.
Hmm. Right. That's with regards to LNT as well as Hindustan Aeronautics. Simultaneously, what do you make of a Bharat Forge as well? Because Bharat Forge and RK Forgings, both these companies are also collaborating with a lot of railway as well as defense companies on these orders. How are you seeing both of these counters as well, and what would you advise an investor to do?
Yeah, most of these stocks which are related to or which are getting orders directly or indirectly for defense are doing pretty well. Railways and defense, both of them. And I think forging stocks are doing pretty well. You see Ramakrishna Forging, of course. I think most of the forging stocks related to auto defense infrastructure are doing well. And I think Bharat Forge is doing reasonably well. It has performed quite well in the last 2 quarters. And I think even the auto sales, especially America auto sales, US, is picking up. So I think to that extent, Bharat Forge is stabilizing as of now. And in fact, I would think even Ramakrishna Forgings is benefiting from the railways, as you mentioned, getting orders from there. So I think these stocks are doing reasonably well as of now. And raw material price also coming off would be a bit of kicker for them. So they are back in focus, I would say. Yeah.
Right. Moving on, what do you make of a Mirza International, China? Because that stock also, if you see today, is up around 5 to 6% in trade. In the last 6 months, it's not really done much. But overall, we are seeing some bouts of positivity that keep coming in on this counter. Do you think it's a good bet to look at?
It's an interesting small cap. It has started showing a lot of momentum today. Of course, it's a case in point, and it's a small market cap. I think just about three and a half
Correct.
thousand crores, and I'm seeing interest coming in from small cap funds, which is a positive. And there, I think valuations are very attractive. If you look at overall valuations, currently it's just about half time sales, and if you look at EV by EBITDA, also is just about 8 or 9 times. Strong brands, red tape, and I think export sales account for three-fourths of its revenues.
Hmm.
So I think all these things are bringing that stock back in focus. It does look like an interesting bet. Of course, it has limited interest given the sector it is in, which is leather tanneries, but to an extent, valuation is actually driving the stock up.
Right. So that's a valuation play that we need to watch out for. Moving on, ITC has kept on hitting its life highs, and now we are seeing some bouts of correction that are coming in today's session. From a business perspective, do you see value here? Because clearly, in the kind of fall that we are seeing in terms of markets, usually these are situations where FMCG counters are actually taken as hedges, right? As safe havens as well. So would you still recommend to buy a ITC at current levels?
ITC has proved to be a safe haven in the last 1 year, where the overall market did not give you much returns.
Hmm.
So ITC has been an outperformer. Even after this outperformance, I think the current correction that is there is just a short-term technical correction. In terms of valuation, I think a lot of value still exists, both in terms of the discussion that is happening in terms of the value unlocking that is likely to be there, with the management discussing or at least mentioning that there is a possibility of demerger of some of the businesses, especially hotels, which could give value to the shareholders. Also, the core business, which is cigarettes, which accounts for today maybe 40% of revenues, which is pretty low if you look at it over a 5-year period. But it contributes to about 75% of profits. And I think that is a cash cow which is continuing to generate sufficient cash to grow the other businesses like FMCG. So I think there is a lot of value that is there, and in terms of valuation on a PE basis, it continues to remain attractive despite the substantial outperformance it's shown vis-a-vis the other FMCG stocks. And I think this is the one FMCG stock that is holding up the overall FMCG index. So I would continue to remain invested in ITC and use any corrections that we are getting as we are to keep adding positions.
Right. So that's with regards to an ITC. What do you make of a Z Entertainment with the entire merger saga with regards to Sony, which will probably be moved on the back of, the interventions coming in, on the back of the repayments that are pending for IndusInd as well as IDBI? How are you seeing a Z Entertainment? Are you seeing value?
Yeah, it has been, been a very, it's been an underperformer for a number of years, and considerable disappointment in terms of the stock performance. So I think this is a relief where now they are talking of repaying their, the debt and sort of putting that behind us. And I think the merger is going to be a very big kicker. And in my view, this is one stock which is likely to be a multi-bagger. Of course, time will tell how the management will sort of integrate the whole, take forward the merger and bring out the best. But I hold and I would continue holding. I think there is a substantial upside if things go well for the company.
Right. Shaina, one last sector I want to talk to you about is real estate. Now, taking into consideration the kind of, up move that we saw on the back of DLF, we are seeing that sentimental up move coming in as a counter impact on all the other real estate companies as well, right? Do you think real estate is in a good place from here on and good opportunities coming in there?
Real estate has been a sector which is, come back into the radar of investors over the last maybe a year. And I do think that after all the negativity that had happened in the last couple of years, things are looking up for the sector. I still see that the sort of order book that DLF has reported. I mean, the number of purchases that DLF has reported of its finished flats, or flats, 7 crore plus per unit flats yesterday. I think that was a positive in terms of sentiment. I do think that the sector will be slow and steady. It will move up, because sometimes we've seen like, okay, we've seen this good news from DLF, but with Godrej Properties we saw something like really negative in the last quarter numbers. So I don't think that this is like a you can look at it on a quarter to quarter basis or news based rush and buy. So I wouldn't do that. But I think the overall sector, given the raw material prices that are likely to correct, would probably look decent for investments or declines for the medium to longer term. And here I would be selective and just remain invested or buy in the leading companies. Like, for example, if you're looking at South, I would be say Prestige or like DLF. These are some of in the North. DLF. In the Mumbai region, you have Godrej Properties. So I think I would limit my investments to the leaders.
Right. So that's with regards to the topics coming in from the real estate space as well. Thank you, Shahina, so much for joining us on the show and giving us those views in terms of what should be done with the movers and shakers in trade today. Thank you. Stay safe and speak to you soon again.
Thank you, Hiral.